UFC bantamweight champion Aljamain Sterling is injured with a torn bicep, and he's saying that he might not be able to come back until the summer of 2023. And now the bantamweight division has descended into chaos. Everyone's calling each other out. They want to make an interim belt. Some people are calling for Aljamain Sterling to be stripped of the title and to make a new title fight between Sean O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo. There's also Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, which is arguably a number one contender fight to decide who should be next for the title shot, especially if Marlon Vera wins, because he does have that win over Sean O'Malley before. So there's a bunch of confusion around this situation. I thought I'd make a video about it because I want to clear some things up and say what I believe should happen in these circumstances. First of all, I'm going to defend Aljamain Sterling, is what I'm going to do. Crazy, I know. But I'm seeing a lot of comments on social media saying things like, one of the top comments here on ESPN MMA, "I like Aljo, but come on now, this division is silly. Strip Aljo of the title or create an interim." I don't mind the idea of creating an interim title, and I'm sure Aljamain Sterling doesn't mind the idea of that either, but people call in to strip Aljamain Sterling of the title. What are you talking about? He fought in October. Why would they take the belt from him? Oh, you fought in October and you're not ready 5 months later? Oh, you're getting stripped of the title. That's not how it works. I don't mind waiting until the summer to see Aljamain Sterling fight again. However, if that is going to be the case, I would like to see an interim title fight, because the fact is, we don't have all that much clarity in other divisions right now in the UFC. And we got a bunch of pay-per-views coming up in April, May, June, July. And we need some people to headline those pay-per-views, which means we need some belts on the line. So I wouldn't mind seeing a Henry Cejudo versus Sean O'Malley interim belt in that situation. But I'm just going to clear this up straight away at the start of the video. People saying that Aljamain Sterling should vacate the belt, be stripped of the title and all this type of stuff. Vacate the belt. Aljamain doesn't deserve it. Sean versus Henry for the vacated belt. That just creates more of a mess, because Aljo's going to have to fight for the belt when he comes back anyway, and then the winner of Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen is going to be waiting until 2024. So, with all respect to people saying that Aljo should be stripped of the belt, shut your stupid mouth up, you moron, okay? There's no way you can strip Aljamain Sterling of the belt. If this situation was going on after Aljamain Sterling took that knee to the face off of Piotr Jan, they made an interim belt between him and Corey Sandhagen, then I wouldn't have minded if they just stripped him of the belt and made a new title fight. But he's proven he's the champion. He's proven he's the champion. He's been more active than other champions that are in the UFC, like Ngannou. He's proven he's the champion. He beat Piotr Jan in a rematch in a very close fight, but I thought he won that fight. And then he went out there and beat TJ Dillashaw, and it's nothing to do with him that TJ Dillashaw went into that fight injured. So he should not be punished in any way whatsoever. So Sean O'Malley has responded to the situation just to get that Aljo vacate the belt, strip Aljo of the title situation out of the way, because that is just absolute stupidity. Let's move on to the other situation. So we've got Henry Cejudo talking all this about, you know, Aljo's not accepting the fight and stuff like that. And we've got Chito Vera saying we don't have a champ. Chito Vera does a lot of talking, by the way, and not a lot of people talk about that, but, you know, it's all good. And then Sean O'Malley even said, this is a very unique nickname by Sean O'Malley, is all I'm going to say. He said, is Aljamain fighting Henry or not? I'm confused. He said his bicep is torn. If that's the case, then let me beat up Henry. I don't mind that. I really don't mind that whatsoever. So I think the perfect situation would be April, pay-per-view main event, Sean O'Malley versus Henry Cejudo for the vacant belt, a women's title fight in the co-main event. You're going to have to stack that card with a bunch of good names. Maybe that's where Pimlet comes back because he can't make the London card in March. Who knows? But they're going to have to stack that pay-per-view with a lot of big names, because although Sean O'Malley is a big name, it's not like an esteemed title fight, especially because you'd have to put a women's co-main event underneath it, because you can't put like the light heavyweight or middleweight or heavyweight men's title fight as the co-main event to Henry Cejudo versus Sean O'Malley. At least they wouldn't do that. You could, but they wouldn't do that. So it'd have to be like a female co-main event, an Amanda Nunes fight, a Valentina Shevchenko fight. What I would love to see is an April pay-per-view card, Sean O'Malley, Henry Cejudo, fighting for the vacant 135-pound interim title, which isn't even vacant, fighting for the interim title in the main event. And I think that would sell because they got history. They've talked back and forth. They've had a backstage encounter as well. They would talk back and forth at a press conference. You know Cejudo would jump at that opportunity and also live up to it at the press conference in the build-up by talking a whole bunch of trash about Sean O'Malley. He would do his best to sell that fight. I think that's what should be done, in all honesty. And I think they should be paid pretty well for it. And then maybe, just maybe, they could do Shevchenko versus Nunes 3 in the co-main event as well. And I think that would be a pretty good pay-per-view card if you could add some pretty good fights underneath that as well. I don't know what they do with the rest of the card there, but I'm sure there's some big matchups they could put on that card. Maybe like a Cyril Gane, Sergey Pavlovich feature fight. A Paddy Pimblett versus Tony Ferguson opens up the main card. They could make it a sellable card without massive championship fights. But I think O'Malley versus Cejudo would be a pretty big fight. And then that just leaves us with what to do with the winner of Marlon Vera versus Corey Sandhagen, which I believe should be short notice replacement for the Aljo title fight against the winner of Cejudo versus O'Malley. Makes sense. Pay him a bit of money. Sandhagen's been a backup opponent before, and it ended up paying off for him because he ended up fighting Piotr Jan instead of Aljamain Sterling in the Jan versus Sterling original rematch date. So yeah, I think that makes all the sense in the world. I know that Sandhagen and Vera are fighting in February, so if I was the UFC and I wanted to avoid some controversy, I would get this fight signed before that fight happens in February, because if Marlon Vera beats Corey Sandhagen, which I don't believe he'll do, but he has a very good chance of doing so, it's a very competitive matchup. If Marlon Vera beats Corey Sandhagen in February, and then they give O'Malley a title shot against Henry Cejudo, then you got bias problems. You know what I mean? Oh, this is biased. They shouldn't have done this. They should have given a title shot to Marlon Vera. He beat Sean O'Malley. O'Malley didn't even beat Jan, which is what people are saying, even though he arguably could win that fight. It's a very close fight. I don't think it's a robbery and all that. But that's what people will say. The majority of the audience, if Vera gets a big win against Sandhagen and then the very next week on ESPN MMA, Cejudo versus O'Malley for a vacant title, for an interim title in the bantamweight division of the UFC. People are going to say, bias, Vera deserves it, F O'Malley, why is Cejudo getting it instead of Vera? They might even go against Cejudo, who knows. But I think that would be very, very good. If they make it soon, get it signed quick, do it in April, pay-per-view. I don't think McGregor can be back for April, so I think his card might be in May. Maybe that would be a better thing to do with McGregor, because he does have to be in the USADA testing pool for 6 months. And I don't even think he's joined it yet, so maybe he'll be coming back in June or July, in all honesty. So we need some pay-per-views in April or May, is all I'm going to say. So far in April, they already have Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez, which is a pretty good fight on that card already. So main event, Sean O'Malley, Henry Cejudo. Sign me up. You could market it as, which would be detrimental to Aljamain Sterling in the meantime, but Aljo, hear me out, okay? Because this will work for you in the long run. First of all, the interim belt will build up your fight with the winner of it, and it will therefore sell more pay-per-views, hoping, of course, by that point, I'm assuming you do get pay-per-view shares. Who knows? You probably don't, knowing how the UFC have been doing your negotiations, but maybe you're getting pay-per-view shares, you know what I mean? And then there's 2 belts, interim versus real champion. It always sells better than just a regular number 1 contender versus a champion, so it'll build up the name value even more. It might be Sean O'Malley that you're taking on, and that's a very big money fight, but they're probably going to market it in a way in the meantime by saying O'Malley's fighting the real champion that never lost at 135 pounds, because they can easily market that, Aljo. If you're watching this video right now, I'm not sure. But if you are, they're going to market it that way. So just letting you know. Stay reserved. Practice some stoicism. Okay? Don't get emotional about it. They're going to show you getting KO'd by Marlon Moraes, and then they're going to show Cejudo finishing Marlon Moraes and becoming a bantamweight champion. It's all they're going to do, okay? In the build-up, because that's how they're going to market it. They're going to show Cejudo winning the 135-pound title before leaving the division, and to do that, they're going to show him beating Marlon Moraes. And when they show him beating Marlon Moraes, they're going to talk about how Marlon Moraes was a monster in the bantamweight division, top contender. And in that showing of how Marlon Moraes is such a monster, they're going to show you hitting a dab on the canvas, out cold against Marlon Moraes. And that's how they're going to build the fight. So there'll be an interim title holder of the winner of O'Malley versus Cejudo versus Aljo. And that will work out very well. And then you can have the winner of Vera versus Sandhagen as the short notice replacement backup, and then they can take on the winner of O'Malley, Cejudo versus Aljo in the summer, maybe at the end of the year, maybe early next year, who knows. But right now at bantamweight, Merab says he don't want a title shot, so F him, in all honesty, in terms of like, he can't be wronged if he doesn't want a title shot as long as Aljo's champion anyway. It's not like you're doing him dirty, you know what I mean? So he can fight Piotr Jan, International Fight Week in July. Winner of that can fight another contender on the rise. Maybe the winner of Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. And then that'll sort of give us some time to build another title contender beyond the logjam that's now going to exist at the top of the bantamweight division. But yeah, take some heat off Aljamain Sterling. He just fought in October. He's not entitled to fight in March or April. But the problem is, we have a demand for title fights right now. That's the problem that we have. You know what I mean? We need title fights, so this is what's going to have to happen. Sean O'Malley, Henry Cejudo, build it up. Let me talk about who I think is going to win those matchups. I think O'Malley beats Henry Cejudo. Fight me. In all honesty, I think he beats him. I think Cejudo is being talked about in a very interesting way. I think people act like Cejudo was ragdolling people and destroying them in the wrestling department his entire career, and that no one in the history of MMA can ever stand and tussle with Henry Cejudo in the wrestling department. And I don't think that's true whatsoever. In all honesty, I think that Henry Cejudo has okay wrestling, but guess what? He took down Dominic Cruz 1 of 5 attempts in their fight that they had, where Dominic Cruz took that fight on very short notice. Just want to mention, 1 of 5 attempts to take down Dominic Cruz. And when he did take him down, Cruz was up in 14 seconds. Old man Cruz, on short notice, whilst not even being active before that either, and stepping in to save the card pretty much in the time that it was. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like Henry Cejudo, 1 in 4 takedowns against Marlon Moraes, and the only reason he got the eventual takedown is because Marlon Moraes was quitting in round 3 to the damage that he was taking as well. You know what I mean? Like, we can go through some of these moments, like, Cejudo don't really be getting takedowns on people, if you don't mind me saying. You know, he got 3 of 11 against Demetrius Johnson, but he didn't do anything with them. I know it's Demetrius Johnson, I get that, but still, he's not as big as the bantamweights, and we've seen people like Dominic Cruz easily out-wrestle a guy like Demetrius Johnson early in his career, I understand, but still, bantamweights are going to be harder to hold down for a guy like Cejudo compared to the flyweights. And he wasn't able to do anything there. He was able to do okay with Sergio Pettis in the grappling situation. I get that. But it's not like Cejudo's been ragdolling people. 1 of 7 takedowns against Joseph Benavidez. And that one takedown, he held him down for 13 seconds, and Benavidez got right back up. O'Malley showed good takedown cheating in the Yan fight. Watch my second channel video on that, because he was cheating a whole bunch. But he did okay in the grappling. You know what I mean? There's still a solid chance for him to get back up. If Cruz can get back up, I think a prime O'Malley who's preparing specifically for takedowns, which no doubt he wasn't when he was preparing to fight Piotr Jan. I'm sure he thought it was going to be a striking match. I think that O'Malley would do pretty well in that matchup. I don't think he'd do well against Aljo, because Aljo's he's a capitalizer of a grappler. So it's not about getting the takedown. It's not about laying in full guard on top like Cejudo does and throwing total punches when you're face-to-face with your opponent on the ground. It's about taking you down in the aims that you might try and get back up straight away, and then he's on your back, and then it's a problem for O'Malley fighting a guy like Aljamain Sterling. So I think O'Malley could beat Cejudo. I think he could play that leg kick game early. And also for O'Malley, Cejudo is like, he's not going to be in peak form. He's not going to be in peak form coming back. He's not young, is something I want to point out straight away here. How old is Henry Cejudo, and when is the last time he fought? So Henry Cejudo is 35. I know he looks 12, but he's 35 years of age. Okay? 35 years of age. And he hasn't fought since May of 2020. Oh my God, I'm going to die soon. It's been over... Oh my God. It's been like 2 years and 7 months since that UFC 249 card. Jesus Christ. All right. Well, sorry, I just got all depressed there. Either way, Cejudo ain't been in the cage for 2 years and 7 months, and by the time he fights O'Malley in potentially May or April, it's coming up close to 3 years. He's not going to be in form, and O'Malley's a dangerous guy early in the first round. If your timing's not feeling too good, and there's a bit of rustiness on the feet, and your timing's a bit off, all of a sudden, it's O'Malley's knuckles on your chin, and you out cold. So, I think O'Malley has a solid chance. I think they should make that fight. And I think Marlon Vera, Sandhagen winner. First of all, make the fight before that Vera-Sandhagen fight happens, and then the winner of that one can be the short notice backup replacement opponent, get paid a decent amount of their show money to be the backup replacement opponent, because of course we don't know when. I'm not saying Aljo would pull out again, but if Aljo, it's like Aljo just got injured, so the UFC are going to be like, well, he's recovering from an injury. There's a chance it will happen again. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if you've just come back from an injury, there is that doubt, like, is he actually going to make it to the fight again? Because who knows what sort of condition he's in, you know? So, yeah, do that. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Toodle Pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye. Yeah. Marab fight Yan as well. See ya.